Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, whatever part of the world you're tuned in from. This is Funny Like a Clown podcast. I am your host, Dennis Wirth. Oh gosh, usually I got the date ready for you, and I don't even know what the date is today, but we are in July, late July, so we're at the end of July 2026. It's episode 189. Um, and today we're going to be discussing a guy close to my heart, man. And I'll tell you what, I'll tell you why. But Arsenio Hall, comedian, actor, talk show host. Yeah, I'm reminded if you ever seen the movie Full Metal Jacket there, and the drill sergeant there, Lee Ermey, he comes out and he says, "Private Joker is silly and he's ignorant, but he's got guts, and guts is enough." Well, guess what? Arsenio Hall may not have been the top rated late night talk show host, but damn it, Arsenio had guts, and guts is enough, okay? As always, today's episode is brought to you by G Vegas Buffalo Sauce. For the spicy, sweet, savory taste of game time, there's only one G Vegas, the official Buffalo Sauce of Joke in the Box Comedy Club. Go to www.jokeinthebox.org. Go green, go fresh, get some shipped right to your door. And yeah, man, Arsenio Hall, and I'll tell you why I love this guy, because he did things that like no other, late night talk show host would do at the time, okay? And I'm a father's rights activist. I'm huge on father's rights. I don't want to get into, my personal spiel, but if I was on the outside of the system looking in, I'd be saying the exact same thing as everybody else. Hey, be a man, pay your child support, take care of your kids, don't be a bum. If you've been on the inside of family law court and you realize that this system has absolutely nothing to do with what is in your child's best interest, it's a profit-driven system, and if the courts have to choose between your child's best interest and more profit, they will choose more profit every single time. And I could go on the whole episode about this subject because I'm not passionate about it, but I won't, because this is about Arsenio Hall. Well, you go on YouTube and look it up. Arsenio Hall had on Prentice Powell, who he's a author or a poet or something out in California. Well, this guy went on the Arsenio Hall show, and he gave a speech on there that almost brought me to tears. Just talking about, all he wants to do is just be a father. And I'd encourage you, go to YouTube and type in, Arsenio Hall, Prentice Powell, Father's Rights. His video will come up. Watch this video, and he said all the right things, I'll tell you, man. And, no other late night talk show would have had the guts to let this guy go on and say what he said, okay? Because, I'm a comedian out of New England, and I know, I've had friends who've been on late night talk shows, and they tell you, they consider them hot subjects, it don't even have to be, things. They give you a list that you can't talk about, and, you got to be clean when you go on late night TV, which I get. For TV, you got to be clean, but even if you're clean and talk about what they call a sensitive or a hot subject, they won't let you do it. Well, Arsenio let this guy talk about a hot subject, and let me tell you, the world needs more of that. And I remember back in the day, too, when Andrew Dice Clay, for a little bit of time, he was the number one comic on the planet, okay? And not everybody approved of his style, I mean, to me, I'm a comedian, I get it. It was just jokes. It was never meant to be taken seriously. And he said himself, it's a character he plays. Well, Arsenio put him on his show, the Arsenio Hall show, which no other late night show wouldn't have him on. Letterman wouldn't have him on. Jay Leno wouldn't have him on, And I guess years later, when he was on the downfall of his career, Jay Leno said, all right, you can come on. And he's like, you should have had me on when I was the number one comic on the planet, not later on in my career, He said no. Jimmy Fallon later did have him on, but I mean, he never, when he was the number one comic, he's right. That's when he should have been on. That's when everybody wanted to see him. Well, Arsenio, baby, he had he's got guts, and guts was enough. Love this guy, man. Host of the Arsenio Hall talk show from 1989 and 1994. Then they revived the show in 2013 to 2014. And I remember they told him he's going to get a second season. Then they pulled the rug out from under him and never get to him. And I wish they had, man, because he was doing stuff that nobody else was doing. Also seen on such things as Martial Law, Coming to America 2, Harlem Nights, Star Search, Thick of the Night, where he played Ellen Thicke's sidekick. So, yeah, I mean, we all remember him from those Harlem Nights, Coming to America. I mean, I thought Coming to America 2 was like a great sequel, too. But I would love to see a Harlem Nights sequel, but unfortunately, Pryor and Red Fox are no longer with us. But he did a lot of work with Eddie Murphy, as we all know. I mean, I guess he was Eddie Murphy's sidekick, I guess you would say. But I mean, he's done, had his own show there. Which, hey, what comic wouldn't like to have a late night talk show? Let's see. 2012, he won a Celebrity Apprentice with Donald Trump there, show there, and I remember watching that show, man, and it wasn't easy to win. I'll tell you, you really had to. You had to impress some people who made it in the business world, successful businessmen, and it's not easy to impress them because of their success. They know what it takes to be successful, and he pulled it off. Born in Cleveland, Ohio, he performed as a magician as a kid. I didn't know that, so a lot of people, some people do, comedy magic and stuff like that, but I mean, magic is a stepping stone, I guess, you like to perform, then comedy's your next thing. Very educated, man. I didn't know that. Went to University of Ohio and Kent State University. So, moved to Chicago to pursue comedy, then L.A., which L.A. back in the day, which, I mean, somewhat still is. You go to L.A., that's the place to be to pursue comedy. He appeared on Soul Train a couple of times, which is a big show back in the day. That was when he started, getting his breaks there. He did 5 weeks on Match Game and Hollywood Squares in 1983 and 84. He was the voice in the Real Ghostbusters animated series from 86 to 87. That one I didn't know. That would have been like a trivia question about Arsenio. So I guess if you're a big Arsenio Hall fan, you probably know that. If you're not, then you probably don't. But there we go. Let's see. He set up Arsenio Hall Communications in 1987 with a 2-year deal to develop shows for Paramount. 86. Well, in 1986, Fox tried to compete with the big late night shows, the Carsons, the Jay Leno's, and the David Letterman's of the time. They hired Joan Rivers, and it was a miserable failure, and she had her side of the story. Fox had their side of the story, but it was a horrible failure. So while they're shuffling to do all this stuff, they had on some guest hosts, to replace Joan a few times. And Arsenio became actually the most popular guest host that she had on there, which he was such popular doing fill-in. He did such a good job at it. People were tuning in to see him that he got offered his own late night talk show, which turned into the Arsenio Hall Show, as we all know. He was an instant hit, especially with the young crowd, man. He really appealed. He could relate to the younger crowd. I guess one of his more famous things was he did the dog pound, like this section of the audience over here is the dog pound, woof, woof, woof. And he said he got that. I'm a football fan, too. I know the Cleveland Browns, they have the end zone there is considered the dog pound. They all dress up as dogs, and they woof when somebody scores a touchdown. So that was like a call back to them, but great idea. It paid off for him, I'll tell you. Let's see. He appeared in Pretty Woman in the Hard Way. He had a rivalry with Jay Leno, and he actually came out one time and said, "I'm going to kick Jay Leno's ass in the ratings," which that's a gutsy thing to say, considering the Tonight Show is one of the biggest shows of all time. But hey, man, for a while, I'll tell you what, he was hot. That late night show, it was hot for a while, like I said, because he had the guts to do what the other ones wouldn't do, and people were looking for something different. Everybody supports something different in the comedy world. That's what they say. When you're doing comedy, they're not looking you to go, oh, yeah, let me talk about my coffee. You do a routine everybody's done a million times. Do something different. That's what's going to get you noticed in comedy. Arsenio, man, he was doing something different, let me tell you. Let's see. He was a big supporter of gay rights before it was popular. I mean, I know back in the day, it was like, whoa, you came out and said you were gay, you get your ass kicked, man. I mean, then there was a movement which brought it into today's where it's an accepted thing and people are more educated on the subject. Well, Arsenio was educated on the subject before it was popular to be educated on the subject. I guess there was some controversy in the beginning before, they understood, he was a big supporter of it. One episode was picketed by gay rights activist, one episode of his show for not having more gay guests. And finally he came out and explained, I have on gay guests, but they're not ready to come out and say they're gay yet, and it's not up to me to tell you, it's up to them. So he's like, he explained the whole thing. Then I think that's what brought the heat off him. Then, okay, this guy is accepting a gay guest. Was met with incredible applause when he did come out and say that. He used his fame to spread awareness on HIV and AIDS after the Magic Johnson contracted the HIV disease. And I remember that was like an unknown thing back in the day, and Magic Johnson really brought it to something, brought it to a level of awareness where people, didn't have it before. I guess it was considered a gay disease fore, and then you figured out, hey, anybody can get this disease. It's not a gay disease. Any disease you want to cure. I mean, I think parental alienation is a disease, and we need to cure parental alienation. And I can't wait until, Alec Baldwin, actually, he did come out. He was probably the biggest star to speak out on the subject. But I mean, we need more people bringing a movement like they did to spread awareness for this movement, okay? And we need Arsenio to come back now and put Prentice on again. But anyway, 88 to 91, he hosted the MTV Video Music Awards. And back in the day, man, every kid was tuning in the MTV Music Awards. I remember when they had Van Halen on. He introduced them. I was hanging on the edge of my seat to see them perform. Let's see, I think it's 1997, he had a short-lived sitcom called Arsenio. I do not remember his sitcom, which I guess if it's short-lived, that's probably why. 2004, he appeared on the Chappelle Show, Comedy Central. Guest hosted the Tim Conway Jr. radio show on KLSX 97.1 FM. So, keeping his hand in a little bit of everything, Little radio, little TV, little podcast. I don't know if he did a podcast, but yeah, that's the thing nowadays. Back then, podcasts weren't a thing, but they're taking over, man, I'll tell you. He was a host on My Network TV, The World's Funniest Moments, TV's 100 Greatest Black Power Movies, Real Time with Bill Maher. He actually beat out Howie Mandel beat out by Howie Mandel for the host of Deal or No Deal. So he was almost the host of that, but Howie beat him out for that. Did appear on the Jay Leno show, so I think that was a friendly rivalry they had with him. He was on Lopez tonight, and Lopez he carried forward for a little while what Arsenio started. He was having like guests on which other I remember Kobe Bryant went on there, and he wouldn't go on any other late night talk show. He's like, I'll do you, Lopez, because it's you, man, because you're doing something different, Then remember Conan came in, and there weren't enough late night for both of them, so Conan kind of took it over and pushed Lopez out. He was then fill-in host for Access Hollywood Live, and he was a fill-in host on CNN for Piers Morgan's Tonight. So, I mean, these are educated shows about politics. That shows, just because you're a comedian doesn't mean you can't be educated, okay? Let's see. He did a bit on the 2024 Emmy Awards. He won $250,000 for charity for the Magic Johnson Foundation, beating out Clay Aiken on, like as we mentioned, this will be one Celebrity Apprentice. So here he is winning the TV show, beating out Clay Aiken, and winning $250,000 for his charity. So that's a cool thing right there. And he continues to raise awareness to this day about the subject. So I'll raise awareness about parental alienation until the day I die, so I get where he's coming from. He departed from the public eye. Rumors were that he was in the Betty Ford Clinic. Then finally he came out and told the truth that he was never in the Betty Ford Clinic. He took time off to raise his son, which that's always a cool thing, because there's nothing more important than your family. And I recently, I was one of the bookers. I was the biggest booker of comedy in central Massachusetts for a while there. Then all of a sudden my mother got elderly, and everything I built up I put on hold. I said, hey, mom comes first. I took a step back from comedy to care for her, and same thing Arsenio did. I don't regret it, and I'm sure he don't either, because comedy's great, man, but it's not your family. Your family, don't ever turn your back on your family, man. Let's see. He filed a $5 million lawsuit against Sinead O'Connor. Sinead claimed that he fueled Prince's drug habit, which supposedly she said he spiked his drink at an Eddie Murphy party. And yeah, those are some serious things to be saying, man. Prince, one of the biggest musicians of all time. This guy passed away, and you got somebody like Sinead O'Connor coming out trying to blame you for it. I guess he ended up dropping a loose lawsuit after she retracted what she said and apologized for it. So good for Arsenio. He didn't hold a grudge, Just set the record straight sometimes is all you really want in life. It's not about the money. It's about, I don't want people thinking things about me that are not true, So good for Arsenio, man. Let's see. If you wanted some trivia, I used to do trivia on the podcast, and I dropped it. I don't know why. Well, I used to have a lot of guests on, and I kind of honed it down to just me being the spokesman on the podcast here for a while because, well, like I said, I'm taking care of mom, and getting guests is a whole lot of work, and just me hopping on here and talking about comedy and comedians I love, well, that's a cool and easy thing, and something to be said for it. I know Bill Burr, he's like, no, I don't have a co-host on my podcast. It's just me and the voices in my head. So I guess you guys are stuck with me and the voices in my head right now, just like Bill Burr says. All right, a little trivia about Arsenio Hall. 1987, he was in the movie Amazon Woman on the Moon. Which, funny, I've heard a lot about that movie. I've never seen it, but it's like one of those cult classics, and I put out a movie called The World Needs a New Superhero, and it's a cult classic. It's not a huge movie, but it's got its following of people that love it, and I think if more people, did watch it, I think they'd love it, but, getting your movie out on the main platform is tough. It's on Tubi. If anybody wants to go check it out, it's free. You can watch it with commercial free on Tubi. The World Needs a New Superhero, or you can watch Amazon Woman on the Moon, or you can watch them both back to back, or do whatever you want. Let's see, I almost do remember this one. He was in Paula Abdul's video Straight Up, and that was Paula's, first big hit video. And it was a black and white video. I remember that, and I do somewhat remember Arsenio being on there. And Paula, she went on to be, American Idol judge, or had her big thing. Bunch of Laker girl back in the day. Here's a few more you probably didn't know. Trivia about, probably you didn't know about Arsenio Hall. Everybody knows he had his talk show, everybody knows he was in Coming to America. But these are things you didn't know about Arsenio. He was on Scooby-Doo, which, I love cartoons, man. I would love to be on a cartoon, a voice of a cartoon. He was on The Muppets Tonight, which, back in the day, The Muppet Show, they got some huge, I remember Kenny Rogers, Sylvester Stallone, Steve Martin, they were getting the big names back on The Muppet Show. Because that was one of those shows where the kids and your parents could both watch it. So they were hitting such a big number because you had two out. You had the older generation and younger generation. It was genius doing what they did. And here's one, and I did not know this on myself, and I'm a huge fan of this show, Cheers. Back in the day, he was on an episode of Cheers, and for whatever reason, I watched Cheers, I watched the reruns, I've seen episodes so many times, and, if I saw it, I'd probably remember, but off the top of my head, I cannot remember Arsenio Hall being on Cheers for the life of me, but, hey, cheers to him for doing what he did, and, bringing awareness to parental alienation and father's rights, and, bringing awareness to HIV and AIDS, that we need to cure this disease. And, I said it in the start and I'll say it at the end. Arsenio had guts, and guts is enough. Hopefully I got the guts on this podcast. I entertain you guys somewhat and tell you what it is, because I've always said, life's set up to beat you down, man. And how do you beat it? You got to laugh about it. You got to laugh about life. So tell somebody a joke, because I've said this a bunch of times, and I'll probably end off every podcast with it if I can. When somebody tells you a funny joke, what's the first thing you want to do? You want to tell somebody else. And what happens when they hear it? The first thing they want to tell somebody else, and on and on. You created a chain. You're spreading laughter throughout the world. And Hey, laughter is the best medicine, man. Arsenio knows that, and I know that. I'm Dennis Wirth. This is Funny Like Clown Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. If you got a comedian that you enjoy, chances are I have done a podcast about him, and I'll give you the inside information and stuff you didn't know about him. Until next time, nothing but love. Peace out.